Good morning, everyone. We are having a morning show for the first time in a long time. So good morning, everyone who's joined us today. This is going to be, unless something else happens, this is going to be the last of the webcast series before the NORAs. I should say that we are going to continue the webcast series after the NORAs, where I'm hoping to have shows with the winners of the awards from next week. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Hi, Louise. Good to see you here. Just to give a wee bit of housekeeping initially, the NORA Awards, the National Online Recruitment Awards, 21st Annual Awards are going to be next Wednesday at the Carisbrooke Hall near Marble Arch in London. Next Wednesday. So if you haven't organised your tickets already, if you're a finalist, if you just want to come along and get involved and network with all the key people in the online recruitment sector, then please book your tickets. Go to norauk.com. I should say there are a couple of tables still left, and it's a big venue, so there's plenty of standing space for the regular tickets as well. So please do that. I really look forward to seeing you at the awards next week. We're in a new venue, as I say, and it's going to be quite something. Got live band on stage. We expect all finalists and winners to be attending, and it's going to be a great party. So getting back to the show today, and all of the series of webcast shows that we've had, the reason that we have them is to give a bit of an insight behind the scenes to organisations that are involved in the NORAs, whether they be sponsors, finalists, former finalists, judges, and so on. And what we want to do is have a peek beneath the surface, a look behind the scenes to what goes on, what goes into making sure that websites, recruitment websites, are award worthy. So my very special guest today is Andrew Glenn. Andrew is from our Academy Award sponsor and regular NORA winners, the x1jobs group. So let me just bring Andrew to the screen. Andrew, good morning. How the devil are you?
I'm good. It's a Friday morning. You can't beat a Friday, end of the week. People are already looking forward to the weekend.
Some people look at Fridays as oh no, Friday's coming. I haven't finished everything I wanted to do this week. And other people are saying, thank God it's Friday. I can't wait for the weekend to start. I want to get out of here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm obviously, I'm dressed down every day now. So,
Yeah.
The joys of remote working.
Yep. So on that remote working side of things, so many of the people who are involved in the job board side of things. So often I'm speaking with employers and with recruitment agencies, and they might need to physically meet people. But in the job board sector, you could have been working at home all of this time. So I suppose in a way that could be a revelation. Either it's fantastic or it's not the sort of thing for you. But before getting into that, sorry, I shouldn't really actually comment on that because that's not really relevant to what we're going on about. But can you give us a bit of a background to yourself and to x1jobs, and of course, which is part of NewsQuest?
Sure, yeah. So I'm kind of head of product for the x1jobs recruitment platform.
Yeah.
So I kind of manage a team of product managers, UX design, UX research, and obviously work very closely with a group of software developers and testers. And my role, I tend to work closely with Gavin, sales director, and Wendy, the marketing director, and also John Wales, who's the head of sales support. So we're in constant liaison with these guys. Yeah. And x1jobs I had to catch up with Wendy this morning just to remind myself of the date that x1jobs actually kind of appeared on the scene, which was kind of late 2016.
Yeah.
And x1jobs was really kind of born, I suppose, out of the success of s1jobs. s1jobs is a business that's been around for 18 years, something like that, and has got a very successful template, running a profitable business, and generally speaking, very happy customers and happy job seekers. And we've always had a kind of a healthy, I suppose, the application per vacancy rate is always critical in recruitment, and we've always had a healthy application rate. And that's partly because we've, worked out ways to kind of encourage, the right kind of job seeker behaviors, and responding to them and what our customers want. And I suppose my role was to look at England and Wales as well. And obviously in England and Wales, we've got lots of newspapers down there. NewsQuest is a newspaper business. There's 200 odd newspapers, and a lot of obviously a lot of traffic as well. And when you look at maybe the old setup, which was really just a job section inside an old newspaper trusted brand, the job section maybe wasn't getting, it's a news destination and not a jobs destination. And we thought that the view was, we think we can actually improve the application rate and have a far better experience by actually putting in strong regional jobs brands inside the newspapers, and bring that S1 template of which we know is successful, apply that around NewsQuest in England and Wales. So it's been great because you get opportunities to go down to, for example, Bournemouth, where we've got the Daily Echo, and it's got a landmark building, in the middle of Bournemouth, a beautiful Art Deco building, and you kind of realise that a lot of these brands, well, they've been there for decades and decades and are absolutely trusted. So it's a fantastic opportunity and makes us quite a different kind of jobs board, if you like. It's quite a different proposition.
I'm based in Glasgow, and I know of S1 from the beginning. I know a few of the people who were involved at the very start, and S1 Jobs became kind of the iron brew of online recruitment, in as much as, well, certainly for a long time, the biggest job board in the world was Monster, except in Scotland, where of course it was S1 Jobs, a bit like Coca-Cola and Iron Brew, and having a dominance, not a monopoly, but having a dominance in the Scottish market certainly was really unique in the world of online recruitment. I think really the only other place that had something similar was Seek in Australia, and Seek still have that monopoly on the marketplace in Australia, and they really shaped the way that recruitment widely, as well as online recruitment with job boards, worked in Australia, because they wrote the rule book. And in a lot of ways, S1 Jobs kind of wrote the rule book on, well, this is how we're going to do things. This is how we will develop the UX, the user experience, and of course the experience for people who are advertising vacancies. But with that, of course, when you're in at the early stages with a marketplace and you're writing the rule book, it can make it difficult to evolve, or at least it gives you the challenge that when you're going to evolve, you have a lot of legacy users, customers, and candidates, and you need to bring them with you. How do you, as a product manager, how do you recognize what behaviors there are out there, and can you push or pull candidates and advertisers into different behaviors by designing the product in particular ways?
I mean, I think on one side, as long as users feel that the product has a bit of TLC, they appreciate that going forward. I mean, that's one thing, and you shouldn't be scared to test things. And hey, you've got metrics, you've got analytics plugged in. If things don't work, you change them. So but what we did though was, it was kind of a long-term, I suppose, our 3, 4, 5 year plan that we worked to. Where we decided, right, we'll put in this new platform to integrate into the newspapers, etc. And after we established that kind of new presence, then we started building out effectively all the tools that were already inside S1 Jobs, but building them on new tech, on the new platform, which was using more modern technologies. It was faster, etc., easier to maintain, all these good things. And we just kept adding, here's the ATS, here's the talent pools, and taking advantage of maybe tweaking and improving some of the functionality in there as we go along. And it was great because you'd have the X1 Jobs customers where, kind of testing it for us and helping us before we moved, our bigger customer base from S1 over. And so that's really what we did. And on the job seeker side, we kind of slowly brought the England and Welsh sites, which were powered by the X1 Jobs platform. We brought S1 Jobs and X1, the job seeker sites, closer together. Even though they were run off different systems, we try, search and things were slightly different. We tried to make the interface feel that they were very, very close. So the plan being that when we moved S1 Jobs over, it would be a relatively painless experience and not a shock for anybody.
Yeah. So to backtrack from the tech a little, from your perspective, how do you view the importance or the place in the online recruitment spectrum of regional job boards? What's the purpose and what's the advantage to advertisers and to most importantly to candidates? What's the key thing that means that a great regional website works well for them?
I mean, a regional, for me, actually, from a product point of view, I don't really see too much difference between whether it's a regional or a national. The site still has to be fast. It still has to have great content, all these good things. And I know that you will probably touch on it. I think does regional still have a place when there's so much remote working going on, and that's one of the, but for me, how I look at that is, remote working right now is, it's a keyword that is trending in terms of the keyword search activity. Yeah. And we saw, for example, right across all the sites, a huge increase. Obviously, it was like 1,000% increase in remote searching. So it didn't really make any difference. People still they will have relationships with multiple recruitment brands. You just got to make sure that you're in the mix. And I suppose we have a very clear point of differentiation because the penetration of kind of local news in the adult population is at something like 70%. That's just as good as a social network. So we've got an awful lot to offer our customers in that respect, because when it's not just a case of, if we want to boost jobs, not on our site but with trusted partners, and yes, of course, like everybody, we use aggregators, but you're getting into the newspaper sites, and then we can apply add-ons to them, so they're featured jobs, etc. And working with the marketing team, they can run local radio campaigns, they can do open days. There's lots of, you've got to have kind of multi-channel approach to what you do, and we've got some kind of interesting things that we can do there.
For me, the nature of a regional website, and certainly from a NORA's point of view, we're looking for sites that feel personalized, that feel as if they're speaking to me or whoever the candidate is, wherever they are. We want to know about jobs with organizations in our area. We want to know about the local trends in terms of recruitment development, who's hiring, who's firing, what's up, what's down, and have a flavor for that. And it's often the case, not always, but it's often the case on national sites or even international sites. If I went to some of the sites like Indeed or ZipRecruiter and so on, who are literally global, then when I run a search, it's entirely possible that jobs can come up in other countries that aren't for me, just because when recruiters advertise job, often they're miscategorized, or when I run a keyword search, it's picking up jobs in Australia when I'm not looking for a job in Australia. So the localization is still really important. And when we're talking about people working from home, they might be working remotely from where their office or their factory is, but usually they're not too far away physically. They're still within shouting distance, because they're going in on an off and on basis, so they're within 20 miles of the location. But when the jobs are advertised, how do you cater for jobs that are saying, rather than previously the job is in Glasgow or Edinburgh or Dundee or Basingstoke, but the job is remote, can work from anywhere. You could be on a beach in Madagascar. How do you handle that when serving up vacancies to candidates?
We have a different type of product, effectively. So, which is the kind of the can be based anywhere product, which obviously companies are able to use. So that helps. But I mean, the default search, for example, that's on the regional sites is obviously just the search for the region.
Yeah.
But people can search, and what you find is that often the location is kept blank, which I find interesting, because to me, people, as you say, are quite willing to travel, 20, 30, 40 miles. And what they're looking for is just a highly relevant job for them. So they'll use the core skill, they'll use the keywords to try and identify just that job. And then they tend to filter the location afterwards. You can see that actually the most popular kind of radius is, they bring the radius from the default of 20 miles and they bring that down. And that's just the kind of behavior that they have.
I think in terms of candidate searching, then if someone's based in, I don't know, Airdrie, which is smack bang in the middle of Scotland, they might say, well, I'll travel 30 miles for work, but oftentimes that means I'll go to Glasgow, but I won't go to Edinburgh, which is covered in the same area. When I search for a car on Auto Trader and I'm looking for a car within 100 miles, it brings up cars that are in Belfast, so it's, distance-wise, it's there, but there's a big sea in between. So going for work in some places is a lot harder commute than 10 miles in the other direction.
It would be lovely to have commuting time. As I search, and a few people are doing it, but again, with my product development hat on, that's quite a lot of processing going on there, and there's obviously a cost to doing that. And again, you've got to really go by the demand. And as much as it'd be a nice to have feature, the role in product management is, hey, we've got a roadmap and we've got to do the things that are really going to add considerable value, and that's not being a big enough pain, but it would be a lovely nice to have feature for certain.
So S1jobs, and I think people are well aware of S1jobs, has been around for a long time. S1jobs is now on the same lickety-split modern platform that the full X1 family is on. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it was a sizable task to move that over, and that's what really we in the last 18 months. Through this period of pandemic is what we really focused on. We just stuck to our plan, and moved that. But we didn't just. It wasn't a case of it's just moving the data over, and there was obviously considerable data to manage. It was, let's look at the business processes and let's try and improve them at the same time. So it's almost a bit of a business process re-engineering project from my point of view, but now that S1jobs and we have everybody on the same platform, it puts us in an absolutely fantastic place going forward, because now everybody is benefiting from that kind of S1jobs template, and they're just generally benefiting from the kind of the efficiencies and slightly some new tools, new ways of working that just make life a little bit easier, easier for sales. And also easier for my team as well, so that we can then look ahead to other types of projects we want to work on.
So you mentioned the last 18 months, which has obviously been crackers for the recruitment sector, and there are big forces at play in terms of the volume of vacancies available, the volume of candidates available, the inclination of candidates to apply for jobs. We know that people are not applying in the same volume as they were. It might be that they're reluctant for any number of reasons. It might be that the furlough scheme has had a downward pressure on availability. But from your point of view, you see the back end and you'll see the numbers. In what way did the pandemic impact on numbers of live vacancies and active job seekers?
We are no different from anybody else. I mean, we were kind of. We like any business, you're trying to make as best use of the data you have, and we're linking up, information from various different databases using tools like Microsoft Power BI that give you fantastic insights into what's happening on the platform. But as I say, ultimately we're no different. We have seen, and it's just like if it's when you read the RBS kind of index report. And it's talking about the massive increases, whether it's secretarial, computing, finance, whatever the sector, hospitality, it's just, ridiculously steep increase in vacancies. And then as a product manager, I would use a tool like Google Trends just to see, job searching, and you just see it falling off the cliff. There's just the volume of, and of course, organic traffic is, along with kind of your email alert traffic, is your best quality traffic by some distance, really. And when that falls away, you're like, oof, it's very, very tough.
So when people often refer to the sharp increase in the number of vacancies now and the decrease in number of applications and so on, but even when you use the term falls off a cliff, there's the nature of how that information gives you tells you more things, such as other areas are falling away or other areas are ramping up quicker than you might imagine. What would be the surprises in terms of regional flow of vacancies or industry sectors that you're seeing, because you've got a family of sites across the UK? Is there any insight that you can give us there that would be surprising?
I don't know. It's a good question, and it's a pretty hard question to kind of come up with stuff at the top of my head. I know, when we looked at some data, we would see that actually sometimes the falls went as big as we thought, and some sectors, you'd have maybe some big outliers.
Yeah.
It's difficult to be, because I don't want to be too specific here, but maybe like in construction, for example, there was you had some real outlying weird behavior that massively impacted the average kind of metrics. And when you got rid of them, suddenly things weren't quite as bad, and the drop wasn't quite as bad as you thought. So I suppose these are the things that we noticed, but I haven't got any real kind of specific insights there to share with you.
That's absolutely fine. Moving on, how do you, and as a product manager, then you're looking at how people are using the platforms, using the system. How do you remain, or how have you remained knowledgeable about the needs of job seekers in the past year? How do you listen to what they're wanting? Is it watching what they do? Is it taking feedback directly? How do you learn about what your job seekers are wanting?
It's always just a combination of the usual things, and that hasn't really changed. I mean, there's phenomenal articles out there, various different sources. There's marketing research that comes our way, and which different team which is shared around, and we'll all discuss and make some observations and jot down whatever insights we pick up from them. But obviously, from a product hat on, there's a plethora of tools that we will use to understand user behavior. Whether it's kind of heat maps, click maps, confetti maps, scrolling maps, to understand why isn't that page converting? Either something changed, but there's so many variables to take into account. Is it the job content? Is it the quality of the traffic? Is it something on the site or on the page that doesn't work well? And obviously, there's there is usability testing that you can do. There's I don't know. There was a couple of companies in Edinburgh that are proper usability testing houses, and they can go and source people and bring them in, and these are always really fantastic. But that is an expensive exercise to go through. And obviously there are kind of online services which can you post up what your usability test is, and it's like they go out and get people that match the demographic of the audience you want, and they connect them, and you get the videos within 20 minutes. That is a fantastic resource, and you don't need that many people to spot some glaring things that you might have missed because you're too close to it. 5-6 people is all you need, and suddenly you see this trend going. There you go. That's what we need to change on that page. So we do that.
Of course, we know that when you run a job board and you invite employers and recruitment agencies to post adverts on it, the content on your site is largely dictated by whatever they post. And of course, the quality of what they post can be fabulous or can be terrible. We've seen some recruiters or HR people posting awful, truly awful job adverts that are not compelling, that are not persuading, and they're not especially accurate. And when you and you can contrast that with amazingly well written content that stands out a mile, and of course the conversion rates of one compared to the other are going to be stark. The difference between the two. So some employers get it, some advertisers don't get it, and I suppose they might blame you when the results don't come through, when the fault might lie in the content that they've put on the job ad and the advert in the first place. So I'm asking that because to what degree do you try and influence the quality of vacancies that are advertised on your site so that they give more information, they're more persuasive, they're more engaging, and that ultimately the candidates are more likely to accurately self-select themselves for that job and apply?
Well, we take a very consultative approach to, the account managers will work closely, because we've got, to really understand what is the kind of employer brand strength of the client, and and we've got services there that will actually, they can tap into, whether it's on the creative or the strategic side, and to help position. And we've got things like company profiles, etc., to boost that presence. But obviously, when it comes to the job ad itself, again, it's exactly the same. There'll be consultation over that, because as you say, a bad job ad, a poorly written job ad stands out a mile.
Yeah.
But having said that, you can have job ads that look almost identical, but they can have quite a different, and be in a similar location, but they can have quite a different level of performance, and that might be down to the salary level, even of the site. Small things can make a huge difference. I mean, obviously, we would encourage right now, for example, we're saying to people are very aware of, is it remote working, or is it some kind of hybrid, or is it 100% back in the office? What are your COVID protocols, etc.? How do you manage that? People want answers to that, or they want comfort from that before they maybe put forward their application. And also, especially just now, speed of the application process. And obviously, people want their application process. The job seeker wants it to be as straightforward as possible. And it's one of the reasons why we've never insisted on being registered before you apply. Some other sites, and I completely understand why they do it. They'll ask for a lot of data. We don't work it that way. We back end all that other kind of extra structured data that we want to collect from the job seeker. But that initial piece where you want to apply, just get your application in. We want to make that as simple as possible, and then we absolutely encourage and try and assist our customers to respond quickly, because the one thing that job seekers still hate is delayed response, no response, or lack of feedback, and that's something that's slightly out with our control. But we're always trying to encourage that kind of behaviour. So it's consultation, working closely with the customer to try and drive quality.
Yeah. Can I ask, while we're talking about the technical side of things, what trends are you seeing in terms of integration of job boards with other platforms such as ATSs or job distribution software, or new hiring technologies such as AI search tools, marketing automation, and so on? There are lots of companies out there who like to hook up with job boards and tap into the CV database for that purpose. But what trends are you seeing in that sort of thing?
Well, I mean, you touch on. I'll touch on a few things there. ATSs. I mean, your ATSs just have to hook and offer multi-posting, which is something that's on. I'm not going to say anything about our roadmap, but that's one thing that we will deal with this year. We just haven't got to it yet. So that multi-posting is important, and I think as well, you've got a lot of ATS vendors. They're a software vendor,
Yeah.
We are not that, and so that's fine. They can extend features and functionality and kind of, do candidate screening and go deeper into the HR process. That's not what we're about. We're very much focusing on search and matching. And so AI search is definitely obviously of interest, but it's a challenging thing though. I mean, you're assuming that it's going to be. You never like to assume anything, but you do assume there's going to be a step change in the search UX. I don't think that's an easy thing to test the results. I mean, how do you measure the quality of the results? And there's a lot of, I suppose, discussions, we have internally around, well, what kind of AI machine learning method? There's different ways of doing it. Which is the right one for us? How are we going to, or who is going to do the teaching, teach this thing to get better? And then once you've kind of established that element of it, you've also got to think about how do you get your data into it? You've got to share data into it for it to then add its information, then get the data back out. You've got to be able to do that at scale. You've got to be doing that at real time. You've also got to maybe handle lots of historical data. So there's lots of challenges there, and to before you have a fantastic kind of taxonomy, a new taxonomy that you can use, and then there's things like decision trees, and because there's so many different ways this can go. Ultimately, we will certainly test search AI. And I'll be watching, we'll be watching any search AI, type solutions out there as well. And I think for a company like us, we'll be looking to, partner with the right kind of technology vendors or web services, and we'll integrate something. But I'm not rushing to do it. We just got to be sensible. It's a bit like the whole thing that still trends, like video interviewing. It has been around, but I still haven't really seen it take off yet. And it'll be very interesting to see. Obviously, Indeed's launched its, it's pushed video interviewing, I think, quite hard. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. So,
well, video interviewing is pretty standard now, but video advertising, video job adverts is something that people have been pushing for a while, but has not taken off in the way that you would have hoped. Moving on, just noticing the time. So I just want to recap a little. I'm going to share. So this year for the NORAs, we have. I'm going to switch to here and make this full screen. So we have this spread. These are all our finalists for the NORAs this year, and I have to say, and it always surprises me because I review it after the the selections are made for the finalists. But we have, of 82 finalists this year, 56 of them were not finalists for the same award last year. There will be some of the usual suspects in there. x1jobs is certainly in there as a contender for Best Regional. But what's always really good for us to see is the new sites coming through, and the new sites that are doing things in different ways. So are there sites that you've seen in the finalists for the NORAs this year that you've thought, I really like what they're doing?
Well, we mentioned Search AI. So was it Sonic Jobs? I think
Sonic Jobs, yeah.
I was very interested in that one, and had a good play in their website. So that I'll be following closely. The other ones though that I was actually kind of interested in was even the major employers, I think, category. I just thought it was quite interesting to see how some of their sites, the Balfour BT site, I thought was very good. The one that was closest to my heart is the National Trust for Scotland. I thought that was a really excellent, career site there as well. And Yodel was interesting as well. They might not be, the edgiest brands compared to Your Last Minute and EE, which are very sexy sites, but. I think, compared to what, maybe I just haven't been looking at employer recruitment sections for a while, but I was like, they really, really come on and offering a very good experience.
It's almost always the case that when you go and look at sites that are not, immediately within your responsibility, other people's sites, that it's usually an education and a bit of a revelation. That's cool. I like what they've done there. You mentioned the National Trust website. It's a National Trust recruitment career site. a couple of years, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago now, was the winner of the NORA Academy Award. And the NORA Academy Award is the award that is sponsored by x1jobs this year. It's the only award that we have that is voted for by the people in the industry, companies who are members of the Academy, which of course means that they've been finalists or winners in the NORAs over the past 21 years. So what we ask everyone who's a member, and I think there's about 470 organizations who in the last 21 years have become members, they get to vote on which of the sites that are finalists this year do they think represents the best in online recruitment excellence. Now, I should also say it's worth saying that a previous winner of this award has been yourselves. But this year we have Adzuna, McCarthy Recruitment, and Reed. Now, Adzuna and Reed are very much generalist job boards, very different in nature. And I'm not going to ask you to pass comment on them because they are obviously job boards in the same sector. But quite different to those two is McCarthy Recruitment, who have been regular finalists in the NORAs over the past 20 years, and a relatively small owner-run recruitment agency, but have always been exceptionally progressive in how they deal with candidates, how they tackle candidates. So, yeah, the Academy Award, these are the top 3 that have come out in the votes from our members this year, and we'll know the winners on Wednesday next week. But the reason I want to point to that is that let me just split the screen again. So the reason I want to point to that is that all of the awards that we have each year are voted for or are nominated initially by job seekers. We ask job seekers to tell us which sites they prefer, they like best, and we ask for the feedback too. But quite different to that, and of course the judges will judge from a candidate's perspective when they visit all of the sites as if they were candidates. So I've visited something like 500 odd sites this year, which I think makes me Britain's busiest job seeker. But yeah, and there are some corkers in there as well as some that shall remain nameless, but they could up their game a little. But it's great to see that. So as a final question, as a product guy, to what extent are you looking at what trends there are out there amongst other sites, not just job boards, but employers and agencies and so on as well?
Well, you're always keeping your eye out. I mean, I'll go onto our, the other job board sites all the time, and you admire what they do. They come up with some great concepts and they spark other ideas, and we would automatically think, right, how can we improve on that? And yeah. So you're constantly looking at stuff, and to be honest with you, though, and a complete tangent, I'm sorry to say, but my greatest source of inspiration is actually is a website called Deconstructor of Fun. It is It is all about product management in the mobile gaming space, but but really quite it's very analytical. And it shows you, gets you thinking about all the different kinds of touch points you need to have, which is clearly something that we think about when it comes to when somebody is engaged. You have a window of opportunity, and think about the retention, day 1, day 2, day 3, with day 7, day 20, etc. It just makes you think a little bit differently about what you try to do and the relationships you try to have. And so that's you get inspiration and ideas from all over the place, and sometimes it's not even inside the recruitment business.
Yeah. I often see retail sites and they'll do something new or novel, and I'm thinking, hold on a second, this could be great on a job board. So I've put the link to Deconstructor of Fun in the chat there, so anyone wants to check that out. On that note, Deconstructor of Fun, I think we're going to have to wrap up. Andrew, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for being my guest today. The X1 family of sites is I have to say, fascinating from anyone who's looking at job boards for inspiration, because there's an immense amount in there from a candidate's perspective, and of course from advertisers too. So thank you very much for that. Thanks everyone who's joined us as in the audience today, and everyone who's watching on the live streams out to Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and of course LinkedIn Live, and anyone who's watching on replay. We will have more shows after the NORAs next week. There's a chance that we might do a show on Monday, but that's unlikely because we're going to be up to here with organising the event. Andrew, I know we've got a clutch of people from your team come to the NORAs. Are you coming yourself?
Well, I don't know. Gavin hasn't mentioned it, but maybe I'll give him a little nudge, and we might catch up then.
That'd be fantastic. That'd be great. I hope to see you next Wednesday. I hope everyone who's watching comes along and sees us next Wednesday as well. And in the meantime, I'm going to say thank you and goodbye.
Okay.
Thank you then. Bye-bye.